Good morning, everybody. It's Theresa. It's Monday morning. It's been a few weeks since I've made one of these videos, but in all honesty, I am just too tired this morning to even type. I just returned home from a weekend out of town to celebrate my birthday and to um, reunite with an old high school friend that I hadn't seen since last summer and attend his niece's wedding. And so it was a long trip. It was a 6-hour drive each way. And I'm quite weary today. I'm not used to that kind of traveling. And so as I was driving down there, to and from Dayton, Ohio, I kept thinking about how very similar this trip, this physical trip, is to my journey. I've referred to my lifestyle many times as a journey. It's not a diet plan. It's not anything other than a journey. But I didn't necessarily make the connections to a real physical journey until I made this trip. And so I kept thinking about how similar it is. And a few months ago, actually, I received the invitation to go down to this wedding. And I just kind of, yeah, okay, it sounds like a great thing, but I didn't make a commitment to it. Well, I don't know. I'll check. I'll have to see. And then all came the excuses. I was talking myself out of it. Wow, it's a really long ways and it's a short trip and I have to be back to work on Monday and the expense and I don't know, it's a long trip and all kinds of things. I talked myself out of it, and then I thought about the possibilities. Oh, it'll be so great to see Joe and his family and attend the wedding and get away, and it's my birthday weekend, and what an adventure. I always have a great time. And back and forth, back and forth. And I kind of delayed putting off that decision. But once I made the commitment, well, I had to stick to it. I booked the room, the reservation, I made the plan, and was planning to go. I'm on the sun porch. Can you hear the birds? um, so I made that plan, and on I went. Well, 2, 3 days before the trip, I started to think about, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I don't know if I can do this. I'm actually dreading it. I'm tired and I have to do, um, but there was no turning back. I had made the commitment and I was going to stick to it. So early Friday morning, I'm up very, very early, getting ready to head. I'm waiting for it to get like 6 o'clock so I can, head on this journey. And I'm getting on the freeway. I'm like, oh my goodness, 6 hours, 375 miles each way. It's the longest trip I've ever made. I've been to Dayton many, many, many times, but always from my home when I lived downstate. So it was half the distance. And so for many of you, 6 hours on the road isn't a big deal, but it's the longest trip I've ever made. And so I got on the freeway and I kept thinking, Teresa, you are in charge of your destination. You are in charge of your destiny. It's up to you to get where you want to go. And you want to go. So do what you have to do to get there. So much like my journey. Nobody was driving me. I wasn't falling asleep in the front passenger side. I was in charge. If I wanted to get there, it was up to me. Just like my journey, just like yours. I had made the decision, made the commitment, and now I have to suck it up and do what I need to do to get there. And I was excited about it too. So I get on the road and then I'm like, oh, it was up and it was down. It's like, oh, 375 miles. I've only gone 22 miles and I'm already really tired. And I thought, no, I saw a sign and it said Coleman, I believe, and 19 miles to Coleman. And then the next one was Midland, and I think it was maybe in the 30 miles. And I thought, okay, I need to approach this trip the way I have my journey. I cannot be concerned about 375 miles any more than I could be concerned about losing 275 pounds, because otherwise I'm going to be overwhelmed. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to want to quit. I'm going to think, I cannot do this. It's too far. I am just too tired. And so I broke it up. I'd see the sign. I'm like, okay, well, 19 miles to Coleman isn't a big deal at all. Neither is losing 10 pounds or 15 pounds. So I did that all the way down there. I would see the sign. I'm not worrying about the final goal. I'm worrying about the next town and what I'm going to do and pass the time. And of course, it's not a big deal. Once I got there, there's the next one and the next one and the next one, just like my journey. Well, so I'm cruising along. This is great. I'm 45 minutes, 50 minutes into the journey. And the next thing you know, there's a big sign that says highway closed and a detour. Oh boy, this is great. So I get on, I follow the detour on a road I've never been on. Took me way out of the way. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know where I'm going. And yet I have to trust that I'll find my way back. You ever done that on your journey? I certainly have. You take a little detour. Sometimes you go off track. Sometimes you get concerned because you're not going to find your way back to the highway. Sometimes you get discouraged because it's adding extra time. Now it's just going to be another 3 weeks or another month or another 6 months before I hit my goal. But you know what? If you stay there, you stay making progress, even if it's little, even if it's a little bit out of your way. Eventually, I ended up right back on 75 South, and I'm on my way again. So be encouraged with that even if you have that little detour, you're still okay. So I'm going along again, and it's smooth sailing. It's very early in the morning. Once I got past the detour, I'm in some country setting. Hardly nobody's on the road. Hardly anybody's there. And I'm doing this by myself. I'm like, this is great. This is great. I have momentum. I'm excited. I can do this. I can do this. Going along, and then bam, construction. Slow down. Traffic backed up. Getting into rush hour. It's getting a little bit crazy. Stop and go and stop and go. And now I'm frustrated and I'm agitated. And oh my goodness, why did I do this? You been there? I have, on my own journey. You're going along great. You're losing weight and you hit that dreaded plateau when everything comes to a complete standstill. It's not a lot of fun. It's frustrating. I was getting irritated. I was a little bit like, just come on, people, get out of my way. I want to get to where I need to be. Well, you can't push your way through traffic any more than you can get discouraged about a plateau. You just have to keep going at a slower pace, little by little by little, and you enjoy the trip. Well, when I was creeping along, you know what? I got to see things out my window. I was at a complete stop over this bridge, and I looked down and there was this beautiful river and water was going through it, and it was kind of like a little dam perhaps, and there was water flowing. I thought, yeah, you know what? Had I not slowed down or been forced to slow down, I'd have missed that. And so I continued on again and on again. And so eventually I made my way there, and I kept thinking about how so much is like that. When I got to Ohio, oh my goodness, driving from Toledo on, it was crazy. The speed limit changes, the traffic, it was all under construction, and the police were everywhere. I wasn't speeding, but there were police everywhere. Traffic would slow down and speed up and slow down. A little bit agitating and frustrated. I wanted to turn around. I questioned why I was going. Why don't I just go home? And yet I kept thinking about how great it's going to be when I get there, how much fun I'm going to have when I get there. You ever had the diet police bother you? Certainly on my journey I have. People want to look to see, what are you eating, Theresa? Are you going off track, Theresa? You're going too fast, Theresa. How many times have I heard that? You're not eating enough calories, Theresa. You're losing the weight too fast, Theresa. Blah, blah, blah. Just like the journey. And yet, I was in charge. I was driving at the appropriate speed limit for me and for the law within the healthy guidelines, just like I was when I was losing weight. So as I continued on, I saw the sign. It said Dayton, 20 miles. Well, you know what? Now I'm energized. The closer you get, the more energy you have, the more momentum you have. Even though I was tired, it was like, oh yeah, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see the finish line. Just like this journey. When I got closer and closer, when I got under 200 pounds, you know what? I've got this. And so I'm going a few miles, and the next thing you know, I am in a big construction mess in Dayton. It is a lane change, and it was so chaotic with the traffic that, as I traveled off the road, they detoured it a little bit, like off onto the entrance ramp. My GPS goes crazy, and it starts saying, recalculating, off track, turn around, make a U-turn, blah, 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 the same old thing. And I'm like, yeah, you ever had to recalculate? The closer you get, the harder the trip becomes, the harder it is to get to the goal. Even though you're excited and anxious, and you know you've got it, it's just weight comes off a whole lot slower. And sometimes you get to a point where you have to recalculate, you have to add more resistance, you have to do more exercise or change up your eating plan. Well, I eventually got to where I needed to go. I had a wonderful time. I was doing things that I never imagined that I'd be able to do. Years ago, if I would have received an invitation like this to a wedding, the answer would have simply been no. Too hard, too difficult, too fat, nothing to wear. I can't do it. It's impossible. I can't walk. But you know what? Life can be so much better. I walked, I shopped, I visited, I was able to go to the Arboretum. Even though the rain dampened the plans, altered my plans, it was a wonderful visit and a great time. The trip back is just like maintaining this lifestyle. It's not as fun, it's not as exciting as getting there. In fact, it's harder because I'm tired and I just wanted to be done and wanted to be home. It's a whole lot harder to keep weight off than it is to lose it. But yet, if I ask myself right now, was the trip worth it? Is the effort worth it? Absolutely, positively, yes. Same with this journey. No matter how much stress, how many times I want to quit, how many detours, how much frustration, whatever the situation, it is absolutely, positively worth it. So on your journey or on your summer vacations this summer, think about your journey and how much effort goes into it, but be assured that it is so absolutely worth it. Have a good day, everybody.